Oh. Morning, soldiers. In a non-religious, non-political way, of course.
Absolutely. You have to be careful what you say these days, mate. You go to prison.
Hey, I'm not even saying anything about not saying anything.
Absolutely. No comment on the strange.
Holly, hey, it's a strange. Do you know how I know it's a strange world that we're in at the moment, Andy? Because Holly was beaten to the punch. She wasn't the first one to say hello to us this week.
Holly must have eaten too much over Christmas.
Nicholas, you're on it, mate. You're on it. I think every week we should have a challenge.
I've got to say, Nick is, having spoken to Nick, he is really into his fitness. And you can see that. He's first to the pulse. Obviously, the mind is working sharp.
He's on it.
He's on it, mate. He's on it. But Holly, number 2 is not bad. Number 2 is not bad.
Wow. You'll still get a medal for it, won't you? You still get a medal for being last these days. Ridiculous.
That's ridiculous, mate. No.
Not in my book.
No.
Old school.
It's not the taking part that counts. I'm sorry. I will tell that to my kids, even at age 4 and 2. You got to be winners.
But at the same time, to not be defined by the outcome is also just as powerful, right?
It is, yeah. It is. I've got to say,
there's an element.
Yeah.
Go on, mate.
It's something that I struggle with. Like, I play to win. It's my mentality.
Oh, for sure.
But
100%. I think it's very interesting between why do you play to win? Is it for validation? And not just you personally, for all of us. Why do we play to win? Yeah, we love to win, but actually, if we're just in the process and then we're released from the outcome, it's really interesting conversation that's maybe a little bit deep for the start of the first show of 2021. So maybe we'll just
in the first minute, but we can maybe tackle it in the 10th minute or something.
We will see how we go. So, guys, if you're new to the show, it looks like we've got a few new viewers. Can you follow the StreamYard link to register in so that we can see your names, please? So that we can just check in and just bring people up and say, Tony James, good evening to you, my friend. Thank you very much for tuning in. Because at the moment, when we see new users, it says this, Facebook user, please identify yourself, because I can't see who you are. But it says, my son lives in Oz, haven't seen him for 3 years. So hoping we can fly this year. He's supposed to be getting married in August. Congratulations. Again, we don't know who you are, though. But, yeah, if you are new.
You can go instead, Gavin, if you can't make it.
Say that again.
You can go to the wedding instead if you can't make it.
Wait, it was so weird. I was in the gym the other day and Wedding Crashers, the movie, came into my head for seemingly no reason. There must be. That was a pretty funny movie, but not saying that I would wedding crash your son's wedding, of course, especially as I don't drink these days. So I'll be better behaved. That I can promise. But yeah, maybe if you can't get over, what part of Australia is he in? Just having a private conversation in the live stream.
Yeah, that's all good.
Connor, how you doing, mate? Happy New Year.
I don't know about you, but it feels like an age ago since we did this. It really feels like a long time ago.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And I've been trying to organize, not long enough though. I've been watching some YouTube videos and reading up, trying to get the lighting better, which is why I'm not sat in front of the mirror. And you get to see this really antique painting behind me of some random birds. But I'm just trying to sort out some lighting for this show and all of these sort of options. So I realized it's a bit rookie, mate. So yeah. Hence the new angle. Do you like the pic? Can you tell what's in the picture?
No.
You're showing your age there, mate, where you're like, oh, let me just lean forwards. Let me lean forwards. Right,
I don't
okay.
know, man. I've no idea.
Okay.
It looks like something that you'd find in my grand's house, to be fair. Antique.
Yeah, well, I'm not really living here. I'm in Australia, and yeah, it's not like my home. So those sorts of things you learn as you travel around different places. You learn not really to care about stuff like that. But it was only when it was in shot today, I was like, oh, that's a really nice picture.
Yeah.
I thought you might like it. I thought you might like it. So happy New Year to everyone. Let's get the show going. We've got enough people logged in, and we're ready to go. Happy New Year, as I've said. How are you, mate? It has been a while since we spoke. We haven't even spoke really, have we? We've had a nice break off from each other.
Yes, exactly, mate. It does every relationship the world of good. I'm sure it's made.
I miss you, boo boo. I miss you, boo boo.
There you go. Let's keep that sort of talk for private, mate.
Definitely not. I will definitely never ever call you boo boo in private. Sorry, mate.
Guys. Honestly, he does. I try and stop it, but he does.
I don't. I've never called you boo boo. Never called you boo boo. So, yeah, that was a very random start to the year. But yes, 2021, the year of redemption, as a lot of people are calling it. It started off pretty strange, hasn't it? To be fair.
Yeah. I mean, well, not so bad for you from what I've heard.
What do you mean?
Well, you're going to parties, barbecues, restaurants, gyms. Mate, nothing's up with you.
Come on, mate. Don't say that on the live stream. I know you guys are in lockdown and most of our viewers are in the UK. So I didn't want to say that. Obviously, I tell you. Huh?
You need to move, mate, to Mars.
Well, they're trying to work on that, aren't they? They are trying to work on that. But
I think the world's gone crazy, mate. Honestly.
I will just say that it's very interesting what's happening in certain parts of the world now. Let's just put it at that without mentioning any words that will get us kicked off of Facebook, especially as we're starting to climb up the rankings thanks to our hashtag Algorithm Squad. Thank you. We love you guys. Keep bashing in the comments so that I don't have to keep saying it every 5 minutes. But there is another part of the world where it's like there's nothing going on. And they're trying to scare people by saying 4 people have been found with ... And it's like, really? You're trying to scare us with that? And it's really not working. And yeah, shops are open, malls are open, restaurants are open. I'm riding around on my bike, which I like to do a lot, and just seeing groups of people meeting, chatting together and stuff like that. It's very it's just like it's a total, and I know I'm on the other side of the world, but I've never felt so far away from the UK and Europe as I do now, especially with what's going on politically and socially, I guess. Wow, I think someone's either knocked over it. Did you hear that noise? I'm going to close the window. Did you hear that?
I did hear that. Wow.
So it's either a bartender or a waitress has spilt like a ton of glasses or something else is going on, but it's a bit early for that. So yeah, I there is a normal world, and I have been very blessed to kind of experience what I want to do. Although I did get a message from a few people today before the show, so sorry I haven't been able to message you back individually. A lot of people saying about how the weather is. It's actually been raining. It's our sunny summer season, but we also get a lot of rain here on the coast, which is needed. So a lot of my family and friends like to hear about when it rains, just to kind of know that I'm not in total paradise.
Yeah, it's challenging, mate, being here. I've got to say, like,
I can imagine.
And that's the thing you have. I mean, there's certain things you can control, but obviously there's things that you can't control, and you have to kind of live within the environment that's set for you. So, you know, I was talking to somebody today about, you know, reopening our offices up and things like that, and, you know, whether we will do it or not. And I'm absolutely for it, because I think like working from home, yes, it's got some benefits, and that's a great thing with trading. Yes, you can make money, but making money and then doing what with it? You can't even go to a nice restaurant or go on a nice holiday at the moment, or you literally are stuck. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we will be able to go back to the office and go back to normal at some point, because it's yeah, I mean, I think it's a basic human need, right, to interact with people. And we can't be like this, mate, like robots online.
Well, at least we're able to bring that element, and we're able to spike emotions, and just kind of feel like we're having that connection. You know, a lot of people at the moment, there's a lot of changes going on. I'm not immune to that. I'm having stuff, I'm on this constant battle to kind of just release, and to just keep releasing baggage and keep releasing layers. And I embrace that, and trading's been a key part of that. But a lot of people are realizing that stuff that we've held suppressed is having to come out. It should have come out in 2020. And we're just kind of, without being religious or spiritual too much or political, we are kind of being put into a position where we kind of have to have faith in ourselves, but we have to strip away all the crap before we get to see all the amazing stuff. So hang in there if you are kind of feeling a bit crappy right now, because there's a lot of crappy parts for everybody that we're having to deal with, for sure. But we are going to try and make it a bit more lighthearted. Although my attempt at doing that kind of went past the line by calling you boo-boo. I realized that on a live stream. That was my first mistake of 2021, I think. Well, not my first, but first live stream mistake anyway.
Yeah, well, if it's how you feel, mate, you should be authentic, as you always tell me.
That I am.
Listen, we're all friends on this group.
Did you set any New Year's goals? Because I know you're not really big on like goals just for New Year, but is there anything that you kind of set? Because for me, trying to be truthful and authentic is going to be one of my primary goals this year in anything that I do. So.
Yeah, I mean, I set financial goals every year, and not just every year, but more about keeping score, and not necessarily because I need more money or I want more things, because that's not necessarily my main driver right now. I think my biggest motivation right now, as I kind of sit and speak with you today, is to see this community being successful, and that's genuine. Like, I want to see the names that are familiar to us. I don't want to mention specific names because I'll forget other names. So I don't want to mention specific people, but people that are involved in our group, people that are trying their best to succeed, I want to hear from them. My goal for 2021 is I want to hear from them telling me that they're making 10 grand a month, 20 grand a month, that their life has changed. Because that to me is like, sometimes I think somebody asked me like, why are you teaching and why are you bothered? I think even you've asked me that.
Yeah.
Because it gives me motivation, it gives me energy. And, I've been really lucky. Yes, I've worked hard, but I've been really fortunate because I've had the breaks as well to learn this, what I've learned. And then I've had the right personality and perseverance. And I think that's a gift from God, that sometimes you have a certain personality that keeps going to succeed, and other people don't have that and they need help. And so that's really my big motivation for the year is I want to see people coming to me, and I'm already getting lots of messages, by the way, people that are doing well, but I want that to go to another level now. That's really my own personal goal. And I know it doesn't seem like a personal goal, but it is. So I need to come from that space and think, well, what do I need to do for these guys to get them to that level? So that they are I want to hear from these people. I want to get a message from the active people of the group that they are making significant money, and that we have somehow influenced their life and improved their life. And that, for me, that's worth more than any money that anybody could give me, sincerely.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about something like that, but
yeah, no, I'd love to make 20 grand a week. Yes, please.
Not you. You're rich enough as it is, mate. no, on a serious level, I mean,
Nice.
that you are one of those people that I want you to achieve it in trading, because obviously you've achieved it in other things that you've done. But this is something, this would be a big story, right? Like going from completely a beginner, really. I mean, I know you've done a course years ago, and I know the course that you've done, but really you were a beginner, and already we've seen the progress that you're making. So if we can take that progress and see you making serious money in your life and having the lifestyle that you love, I mean, that's just a great story and a great inspiration for everybody.
Especially with 2020 and having to lose things like business and whatever, and you gain other things for sure. And just to clarify, yes, obviously 7-figure business, the business has made that, but profit wise, I've never, 20 grand a week, that'll be a first for me to regularly make that and bank it as profit will be amazing. And just how trading can do that, it blows my mind and excites me in equal measures, And I think one of the things you've said about keeping score, right, and keeping track of things and KPIs and key performance indicators, one of the things for me that's really come apparent over the last 2 or 3 weeks that's really helped with my psychology is breaking down how I'm going to achieve that. So, I've got my eye on joining your trading team and your funded team this year. And, it's that target. So it's like, okay, well, where's the end goal and how do I reverse engineer it to make it a manageable steps so that I can visualize it and feel myself actually doing it. And for me, the first target is, all right, making 10% a month consistently. So I break that down and now it's 3% a week. But now I've broken that down even further because of my business background. I've now broken it down into a daily rate that I'm trying to make. So for me, that's really helping with my psychology. And then I'm even breaking it down to, well, it depends on how many contract lots I can put on. Well, actually, some days I might only need like 12 pips or 15 pips. For me now, I can get 15 pips out of the market most of the time. It's just because I am still a rookie. And I've got a funny story about another rookie mistake that I'm making. And I want to be authentic as much as possible. And hopefully it will resonate with other people. I think it's a really exciting year. And I think anybody that's sat here right now, it's really exciting. We're not saying money is the be all and end all. It's not. 100%.
No,
just having money is not the be all and end all, but especially in the current climate of what's going on in the world, Andy and I both feel that if we're able collectively to have money in our pocket and do what we want, we're going to be forced to do less things that we don't want to do. We're not going to be as controlled, and we're actually going to be able to go out and do the things that we want, that we're here to do. So I know Andy feels like that. I can speak for both of us on that. So if you're sat here now, congratulations. If you're watching the rerun of this, congratulations. Life's going to get interesting this year, but it's going to be a big year, 100% for that.
Yeah, and like absolutely, mate. And some people, I'm just kind of reading the comments as well. Some people are saying, some people might be earning 10K or more per month, right? And I say 10K because I think that's a decent salary for most in the UK. Where you can live pretty comfortably. But you can get whatever you want out of the markets or whatever. But I think it's all about your energy and how you feel about what you do, because you could slave away and earn a 6-figure salary. And believe me, I've been there and done that. And, you could work 12, 13, 14 hours for an investment bank doing something you don't particularly enjoy, being kind of like, essentially it seems like you're earning a lot of money, but really you're not, because if you don't feel good about what you do, you may as well, you're poor, really, in my opinion, if you don't feel good about what you do every day. So I think your goal should be to not just make money, but to actually think about your energy when you're doing something. Like, I don't know about you guys, but when I'm analyzing the markets, I get completely lost in a meditative state. Like, I'm just in my own world, and I thoroughly enjoy what I do. And that, I think, is a blessing, that you can make a lot of money from something you really love. So that's all I kind of want. And I think the thing with trading compared to a lot of things is that it's scalable, and that's really, really powerful. If you understand what scalable means, it's super, super powerful.
Yeah. And I just want to say one thing on that before, because that's a really interesting point you bring up about scalability, and just in life and in general, and how we can use that leverage. And it's amazing that we can do it in trading. But I just want to say, like, I've been traveling pretty much full time as like a digital nomad, if you like, for the last like 3 years, probably a bit longer. And you don't need as much money as you think. Like, people look at my pictures and Instagram or whatever, and I don't post that much up because I don't really want to kind of be that guy and have my life in social media and stuff. But at the same time, people are like, you must have loads of money to do what you're doing. And you'd be surprised. You don't need as much as you think, especially if you go to certain parts of the world. And we're not saying live in a cardboard box or anything. You can live very well. It's just what I found. A word that I absolutely love that I learned about 5 years ago was financial arbitrage, and kind of similar to what we're doing now. And it's like, okay, what I've got in the bank in sterling actually is double in other places in the world, or my buying power is stronger because things are less because of financial arbitrage. And it's super, super powerful. It's almost like reverse scalability of how you can live your life, and you don't need that much. And for me, like living in London for all those years, it was really difficult. It took me like a process of 2 years. When I realized I wanted to live this lifestyle, I started downsizing, to in the end, I just had a load of crap in this massive like 3-door wardrobe. And then I scaled down. I was in a 2-bed flat, a 1-bed place. Then I was in a studio purposely so that I could slim down things that I had. And then I got rid of all of that stuff. And now literally I'm living out of a pretty big suitcase and some bags. And obviously now I've been set up in Australia for a bit longer than I have elsewhere. I've got a few more things, but it's just so freeing to just release from that. And I'm just want to say, like, people say, oh, I really want to do this. I really want to do that. Just look into financial arbitrage and how we can use sterling to actually fund a pretty good lifestyle in other places around the world. If you don't like the climate, why are you there? Now, I get it. If you've got family, if you've got kids in school, it's very difficult to do that. But if you don't, and I've set my life up that way, start thinking about how you can do what you want to do. That's my big message. Start thinking about how you can do what you want to do, not just in trading, but how can you live your life? Where do you want to go? Go on YouTube, see places. Bali was one of the first places that I wanted to go to. And I just was Googling the crap out of it and YouTubing it and visualizing myself there at these co-working spaces. And then when I was actually there, it was like, wow, I'm actually here. So, yeah.
That's great, mate. I mean, do you know what? Just sort of following on with what you just said there. Like, the brain is so powerful that if you can have a strong visual image of what you want, and you think about it, and you write it down, and you ask yourself that question, what do I need to do to achieve this? And then you also do it in present tense, that this is what I'm doing. If you ask it enough times, your brain will start to come up with solutions. I can tell you that I've done this for years. And even in this process, like over the last 12 months, think about, like, I've had success for quite a few years now in trading. And I don't want to say in other areas, because that's only because of my trading. So, like, anything that I've invested is really because of my trading. But I've always done that. I've always, like, even in the process of my trade, I started to 12 months ago, or actually even a little bit before, 24 months ago, I started to ask myself, how can I make more with less time? That's the question I put to myself. How can I make more with less time? invested. And I kind of allowed my trading abilities and knowledge to come up with a solution. So I had the solution in my head, and then it just made a lot of sense. Like, you know, because I had sometimes we're like fixed in this idea, like we have to trade this way, right? It has to be like, because you've done it for so long, or we have to earn money this way, which is like for most people a normal job. But if you start asking a different question, how can I? It's amazing what solutions come up in your head. Now, if you ask it once, twice, 3 times, nothing's going to happen. But if you ask that every day, and actually the best time to ask it is before you go to bed. And then when you wake up, just immediately start thinking about it. Like that's like, I can't remember the some of the guys on here might know, but you know, like you have different I don't know enough about it, but the sleeping patterns, like your gammas beat.
Yeah, so REMs, isn't it? Your circadian rhythm and your REM sleeping cycle, where you go into the different brainwaves. Yeah, alpha.
Yeah, exactly. And they say when you just wake up, that's the time. Like, so if you've asked, so like if you've asked the question just before you go to bed, as soon as you wake up, you should think about that, because that's your brain is at the best optimal problem solving state, I guess, as soon as you wake up in the morning. But when your cycle's completing. But there you go. Nicholas knows about this stuff. Yeah, he's a smart guy, by the way, Nick. He knows a lot. He could talk to me about a lot of this stuff.
Can you start visualizing some decent Wi-Fi then? Because you've been freezing up a couple of times.
Hold on.
And you're starting some bombs.
Have we really been freezing up?
We, the royal we. Because I'm collectively on the stream with you. It will be the we, but it's you, buddy. You've been freezing up. You're gonna.
You sure you're not? You haven't put a coronavirus on my.
Don't say that word.
Oh
Don't
no!
say that word.
I'm sorry, I forgot. We're not supposed to say that word, are we?
Hey.
What happens to the beer? No one mentions it anymore.
The beer?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
The beer, who has the same name as this virus.
I see what you did there.
Are they still in business? Yeah. It's amazing how stupid people. I shouldn't say that, but it's amazing how.
You're calling me stupid.
You.
Direct, mate. If you want, just because I didn't
stop drinking that beer because it's got the name of the virus. Do you know, like during the? Do you know when everyone goes crazy?
Hold that. You just froze. Then did anybody else see this guy freeze? Please just say if someone saw him. If someone saw him freeze.
No, everybody, come on.
Someone, I just need one yes. Okay, the comments have frozen as well. Typical. But it seems like, on a serious note, it seems like you just froze up again when you were talking there.
Oh, I did apologize.
Someone put Coronita. I like that. Coronita.
No, there you go. Thank you, Claire.
Wow.
No, that's nice.
Okay. Must be me. Oh, I like this one. It's good to have a... Yes. Thank you. Nicholas.
Nicholas, come on, mate. Nicholas is drunk.
Sab, don't hate on my Wi-Fi, buddy. Don't hate on my Wi-Fi. It must be your connection. No way.
Well done, Sab.
That's a little bit weird. If some people you're freezing on and some people you're not. That's strange.
There you go. See, excellent.
That doesn't count because that's just Facebook user. That doesn't count. Only if they've got a name does it count. You're just like the rigged elections in the US. I reckon you're doing something.
Gavin literally froze as he said that.
Look, this is like the rigged elections.
Listen, mate, I'm fine. The guys have spoken.
This is like the rigged elections. I reckon you've got your own Facebook user account that you're just.
You're starting to sound like Donald Trump here. I've got to say.
You've just mentioned the two biggest names that you could for Facebook just to go, whack.
Do we live in a democracy or not?
No.
No.
We think we're still in an illusion. Don't get me started on that. But it's all a freaking illusion. Give you as much freedom as you think.
Dictatorship.
Oh man. Okay, so apparently it's my Wi-Fi. That's wow.
There you go, man. You see?
I've got a pretty strong Wi-Fi, but okay, fair enough.
You see, that's a good point. It's discriminate, mate. You can't discriminate these days. Well, even if you don't know the guy's name.
That's funny. That's funny. And there we go, just to balance it out. Thank you, Rico. Oh, you've just reminded me. Sorry, guys, if you've messaged me and I haven't been able to reply before the show, obviously I'm just getting up and trying to sort the hair out and sort my mind out, sort my face out. But Rico sent in a good question about gold. And just what was your, I'm kind of butchering the question, but what's your sentiment about gold? Where do you see gold going in the interim? Where do you see gold kind of going in the medium? Yeah.
It's a real interesting one. I don't, as you know, I don't really trade gold, so just be transparent. But it's always been the safe haven, hasn't it? So dollar goes down, dollar's weakening or uncertain, we flock to gold. So money gets pumped into gold. And that's how it's always been. Now, the question you need to ask yourself is that how it's always going to be? Now, what am I talking about? Well, safe haven, is it gold or is it Bitcoin? What's the future? And I think that's really the biggest question. If you think gold is going to go, if gold is going to go up, it's only because it's always going to be how it's always been. But I don't know, the world is changing now. And if cryptocurrencies are the new internet, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I put it this way, like I used to invest a lot more in gold than what I do now. Like right now, I have it as a hedge, but I definitely don't invest as much as I used to because I think you have to look at what's happening. And I do believe, I don't know what it looks like, but I do believe digital currencies will be around. And
yeah.
I don't know what that looks like, though. I don't know what it means for fiat currencies. I don't know what it's impossible to know that. I think, well, maybe it's impossible for me because I have a limitation in my understanding and knowledge. So I say it's impossible, but maybe somebody else, they can see that future clearly. So like how I really appreciate that. I know what I know very well, which is FX, which is what I've learned. And other things, but some things like that I don't know, I'm also happy to be open-minded to it, to listen and learn. And I think that's where I am at with that. So I think when you're at that space, the best thing to do is, diversify. And that's why I invest in cryptos as well as gold. So
that's one thing I do love about you, Boo Boo, is that you're willing to say, you don't know what you don't know. That's a super powerful.
People are going to be really worried about us, mate. If they're watching this for the first time, they're not tuning in again.
And the first one being your wife. Just to clarify, there's a clue. He's married, guys, just in case. But on a serious note, though, we don't know what we don't know is such a huge thing. And when I first started hearing that and actually applying it into my life, it's super, super powerful. And I love that you can sit there and say that because at the end of the day, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. And are things being manipulated? Who knows at the end of the day, but we're going to find out pretty soon. I'm just looking forward to, I still think there's going to be enough time for us newbies that are just getting good at FX. I think there'll be enough time for us to make some money in it. But then there will be a shift at some point. There will be a shift.
Yeah, possibly. But I don't know. I think it's possible. I think both. But I think we're talking about a long time away. And I say a big if we ever move away from governments controlling finances.
Well, so here's the thing. Here's the thing, though, on that, right? Because I don't know if we've spoken about this before, but let's just do a quick Q&A. I'm not sure if we've spoken about it, but does anybody know what the original premise for banknotes, why they came into fruition, I guess, why they came into people's consciousness, and why people started using them back in the day? Have we spoken about that already, or does anybody know about that? So we'll just let that one bubble away. If anybody knows, put the answer in the comment, please, because I'm going to speak about what I know of, but maybe there might be gaps in my knowledge about what I don't know. But yeah, yes, it was a long time ago, 100%. But I'm going to say my thing. If anybody else wants to say theirs, and you can say yours, Andy. But when we used to like trade and say like, I'll give you some grain and you give me some sheepskin fur for my family to keep my family warm, it was only because of human nature and a lack of trust that came into human nature that we didn't trust that you were actually going to give me my grain for my sheepskin fur. So we would write a promissory note, and that promissory note was that I owe you 4 bags of grain for your sheepskin fur. That's where the inception of this whole thing came from. So without getting too deep, as consciousness and humanity kind of evolve back to where we were, without having all these low-lying emotions like fear and greed and anger and lack of trust, I do think that's the point when banknotes are going to kind of cease to exist at some point. Now, we don't know how long that's going to be, but that's kind of where, yeah, they came in the form of promised notes. Exactly that. That's the whole inception. That's my understanding of money. What's yours and how it started? Have you got anything different to that, Andy, or anybody else that's listening?
No, not really. I think that I don't know. I know you're saying about notes not being around, but I think we've already moved. Most people now are not really using cash. Most of the transactions are digital, so that's already been a shift. Yes, of course. And so that could be the first shift where we no longer use notes. That's possible. But then it's the whole complete other spectrum of it is, how we currently value money, which really the valuation comes from central banks. So, I mean, and it's absurd when you think about it. Like when they need more money, they go and print it, right? It's a bit absurd.
That's the biggest joke. And then they put the debt onto us.
Yeah, right? They basically say, right, this is worth £50, and they can just go and print as many of them as they want. And that, to me, it doesn't really make sense. But so I do believe digital and decentralization makes a lot of sense to me. How that's going to look and whether it's allowed, that's a different. But I can't see how they can stop it, to be quite honest. Like right now, it's happening in the black market a lot, and even in the normal markets a lot, where if I say Bitcoin is worth something and enough people believe it, and then I say I'm going to give you 1 Bitcoin for your car, and you give me your car for that Bitcoin, well, we've had a transaction there that doesn't have to involve anybody else. And that is the open market transaction. So how can anybody stop that? You can't. Like, you really can't. So that's what makes me believe. Now, whether it's Bitcoin or something else, that's what makes me believe that digital currencies will be around and will be the future.
I think it's going to be something. I think eventually it will be something alternative to Bitcoin. I think with all these other blocks that are coming in and chains and everything, I think it's going to be something different. It's interesting to research and look around Bitcoin and what it may or may not also being used for, and maybe that's being manipulated and inflated. But what a business that was. Whoever came up with that idea to go, we're going to make ourselves in control of the money and print it out for people and then charge them back on that. What a great business model that is. Those guys must be very, very wealthy, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Or are they doing it for their best interests?
Yeah, no chance, mate.
Anyway, so Rico, hopefully that answered your question, buddy, about gold. We kind of went on a tangent, but we kind of love to do that on the show. Just trying to scroll through some of the comments that are coming in. Crypto growing because people looking to save their money because inflation going through the roof with all this printing. Makes sense?
It does make sense. Yeah. And I think, I don't know if I mentioned, I think I mentioned it before today. I was, over the holidays, I haven't been trading FX, but I was doing a little bit. I kind of like wanted to experiment a bit, and I traded a bit of crypto.
Okay.
And it really is a different world. And I'm going to be transparent. And actually this can provide a lot of value for people, because you can trade it exactly the same things that work in FX can work in crypto to a large extent. But what you normally would get in FX, it just is completely different in terms of, like, you can feel the emotion in the price, like it's almost, and you can see the sentiment on social media where people are just sort of like, oh, this is mooning, this is this, and they're you know, as they comment, and everybody's jumping into something, and it's like it should be stopping at $1, and the thing has tripled, and it's so exaggerated. So like, I was trying to trade how I normally trade FX, and I'm literally saying, yeah, that looks like a sensible target, locking in my profit, taking my profit, and then I'm not even kidding you, like a day or two later, it's tripled. Like Nano, for example, I bought it at $1, I sold it at $1.50. It went to $2, retraced, I moved my stop up, $1.50. So you're thinking, wow, 50% on that, fantastic. Well, do you know where it is now? $4.60, 3-4 days later. But you know, it's like, and you like, you know, you're looking at this and you're thinking, what on earth is this? Like, it's like a completely, it's so like over. And I guess that the point I'm trying to say is that when you are trading something that it's not your arena, let's say your main arena, like, you can't help but be emotionally attached or emotionally driven by crap. Like, you know, I've just left whatever 300% on the table. So I'm just being transparent. Like, you're like, so there's a lot more emotional pull in cryptos than FX, I find. But maybe it's because it's not. Maybe I'm not comfortable with it. Possibly.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how your psychology in it. But just from a neutral outlook of a professional trader, does that seem viable to you? That surely if it can go that exponentially quick, that much, it can also go against you for no reason, right?
It can, absolutely. So no, it's not, but you've got to remember that this is something that is not mainstream. And so it's like Amazon without the internet. That doesn't make any sense. But Amazon with the internet, well, you know the history, you know the result. So anything that is current right now is potential. So any kind of exaggerated move like that has come from, obviously, well, actually this could go mainstream. So, or whatever it is. And obviously the value of Amazon with no internet is what would you put on it? Nothing. But the value of Amazon with the internet, well, the value of Google without the internet is there's no value. So like, all of these companies rely on that. So if blockchain cryptos are the future, all of these potentially could be the solution. And then that's why you get these parabolic moves. And obviously there comes a point where it's no longer because of the potential, but people are just jumping in of fear of missing out. And that's why you get these crazy moves up and then the big correction back down. So I think if you're going to get into cryptos, you have to be really, really careful. And I personally think the You know, I kind of did it because I didn't want to trade FX. I wanted a break from it. And sometimes I play poker, but I decided to just trade cryptos instead. So yeah, it's been a fun couple of weeks.
Sounds like you got some good returns, better than you would have at poker, though, right?
No, I'm good at poker. I think I've said it before. I'm not afraid to say it. I am good at poker.
Where you could actually make a living out of it?
Yeah, I could.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tiring though, but I could, because you have to keep a straight face for hours on end. It's super tiring, but yes, I could, because when I'm in that zone, yeah, I'm confident I will make money. I've done it before, and I've done it in Vegas quite a few times.
Interesting. I remember when I was in Vegas, every taxi driver I spoke to, they're pretty much like a part-time poker player trying to become a pro. So they would do their poker thing, and then they would just drive around in the daytime. And I was like, do you know what? This was years and years ago. I was like, if you can understand probabilities, because it's all about probabilities and understanding all of that. So I started reading into it. Actually, it's quite funny. And then my missus at the time, we were just playing, and she ended up taking my money. She knew nothing. And I was like, right, okay, well, I understand these probabilities. Obviously, I hadn't done it to any decent level, but I was just like, there's still that element of luck. And I was like, nah, I'm not interested in this. She can just come along as a total rookie and just take my money. I was like, yeah, no, didn't make sense to me at the time.
Yeah, do you know, like, I know that the top professionals, obviously they are another level where they do all the calculations on probabilities, and they know exactly the percentage chance of this and this happening. But I've never done that before. I don't even know it. I've got to be honest. So like, if I'm watching it on TV, it will tell you, oh, the percentage chance of this person winning is 43%, this guy's 57% or whatever. But I think a large part of it is intuition. I think that's a big part of it, and being disciplined. So when it doesn't feel right, just fold your hands. Like, and it's the same thing with trading. Like, if it doesn't feel right, generally speaking, the best advice I can give people that know how to trade is moving back to trading, because that's what this is about. if when you take a trade, when you feel uncomfortable, you're in the wrong trade. Like, and I don't mean uncomfortable for 1 second. I mean, you're looking at it, you're staring at it, you're not feeling comfortable. There's something about that trade that's not right. Like, either the position size is too big, the trade isn't right. You need to somehow find some discipline to close that trade out. And most people can't do it. Most people can't do it.
It's very interesting. It's very interesting what you're saying, and I want to try and absorb it as well while we're talking. But on the flip side of that, the other argument or the counter to that is that, well, then someone who goes on the diet to try and lose weight, they're going to feel really uncomfortable changing their diet. So how do you calibrate, I guess? And I guess the bigger question, which we're being forced to have to do, is use our discernment, which we're not connected to enough as a society. That discernment is what's so key, and knowing the difference between what you just said and the example I've given, and yet still being congruent and following that path that we want to do. But yeah, what would be your kind of words around that?
Yeah, it's not the same thing. It's like, it's two different emotions. So one is uncomfortable because it's not natural to you, and one is uncomfortable because it doesn't feel right. Like, I guess, like, for example, if you believe what you read, then a cold shower is super good for you, for your body, for everything, for your mind. And let's say you intellectually believe that, I would be very uncomfortable having a cold shower. It's something that you don't like, and but you still know it's good for you. But a different example would be like, you might be speaking to somebody about an opportunity or an investment, and the energy doesn't feel right. It's uncomfortable, but it's a different uncomfortable. It's like there's an energy about it that just doesn't feel right. Like, so it's not like taking a trade where, like the cold shower, where you're like, oh, this is not a good trade. It's more like, this doesn't feel right. The price isn't acting right. I don't know, it just doesn't feel correct. So I don't know if, I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Do you not kind of feel the distinction? Like, do you not sort of know the distinction yourself, or experience the distinction, or anybody?
I mean, I'm learning to tap into that more. So one question I've got for you on that is, when it feels off,
Yeah.
do you feel that? Do you feel that in your body anywhere? Like,
yeah, in my stomach.
Okay. So that's probably where the phrase gut instinct comes from then, right?
Yeah. And also, I don't know, you should be conscious of where you feel stress so that you can be present to it. So I feel it here. So if I'm in something or a situation that I'm really uncomfortable with, I feel it here. So I'm aware of that. So because I'm aware of it, maybe in the moment you're not, but because I always think about it, like, and then I can be like, oh, okay, I'm feeling that sensation. So something's not right with my psychology right now. Something's not aligned here. Why am I feeling like this? What's out of sync? And you've got to try and tap into that as much as possible when you're trading. Now, for a lot of people right now who are just practicing and trading demo accounts and whatever else, you're not going to feel it like that. But when it becomes real and you've got real money on the line and you've got something at stake, that these are emotions you're going to have to overcome, or you're going to feel, and you have to be present to them. If you're not present to them, you can't deal with them. Because fortunately and unfortunately, we're human beings and we're going to feel emotions. So, it's fortunate and unfortunate because you have to, that's part of being human. But I think it's just being present to it so that you can then recognize that there is an issue and then deal with it as efficiently as possible. And it's important that you can do that.
That's very interesting. So did you have that ability before trading, or has trading accentuated it or accelerated it, or has it actually forced you to be in contact with that? Because I've just started hearing people talking, and this is the big thing at the moment that I keep coming across, is those determining those different feelings in your body and then using discernment. And it's something that I'm new to using. I would kind of use my intellect rather, and it's about moving away from that ego part of the mind and actually going into a bigger power, shall we say. Did you have that before trading, or is that something that is just come from trading? And how did you first start noticing that? And I know we've got to go into trade setup of the week, but I think these sorts of things are really, really gold, because it sounds like you're kind of using your spider senses on top of having mastery of something. That's then when you can get that real big exponential growth.
No, I would definitely say it's something I developed in trading rather than having something natural. And I would probably say that I learned the hard way by losing a lot of money. You don't have to go down that route, but I guess the way to look at it, or the way I looked at it, was this is my goal and this is going to be achieved. And when I went with it, with who I was, it didn't work. So I'm generally somebody who's confident. So if I approach something, I feel like I can always win at it. I always feel, whatever I do. And that's who my personality is. So give me a challenge, I always believe I can overcome it. But part of that confidence can be overconfidence as well, which is something that I experienced in the early years of my trading. So it ended up costing me a lot of money. And then I realized, well, the goal is still there. I still want that goal, but I'm going to have to adapt who I am. And so I just learned and it's a process, like different things that I studied. We did a lot of stuff, NLPs, and and reading, but most importantly, it's just as you mature, you start to look at yourself and think, well, where are my limitations and what's going to stop me achieving that goal? And because the goal is big enough, and this is why I say goals have to be big enough, but they have to be believable enough as well. Big enough, but believable enough, because if you're earning 20 grand a year and in next year your goal is to make 10 million, well, I'm not saying it's impossible, but there's no real, it's just, do you really believe that? Like, can you see that happening? How is that going to happen? So if you haven't got that believable goal, you're not going to take the right actions to achieve what you need. So you have to have a believable goal, and then you've got to then reverse engineer and say, well, what do I need to do? And so I was somebody who journaled a lot. I journaled all my trades, and I journaled my feelings about how I was trading and what I was doing. And I used that information to then spot patterns of where I was going wrong. And that's kind of evolved over time. And I think you have to kind of do that in a way.
See, so this is really interesting, and I'm willing to use myself as a case study on this. We're slightly overrunning, but I find all this stuff fascinating, and we won't be able to go as deep as we can. But so I've had trades where I've gone into deficit, but they've always come back round because I've given myself enough. I'm finding the turning points that you've taught me. It's really powerful. But this trade that I'm in now, I'm actually rope-a-doping. So I'm like Muhammad Ali. I'm on the ropes, and I haven't been stopped out yet, but it's the first time I've woken up to a big red screen. And it hasn't happened to me before, and I've been quite blessed. And I understand now in retrospect, looking at it, it was purely a fundamental. So if it's meant to be, it's down to me. So if I'm a creator and I can create what I want, I also have to take the responsibility of taking responsibility for my actions. So I can reflect on it and say, shoot, do you know what? I didn't do it. I did a rookie error. I didn't check the news, the fundamentals. I didn't check the news of that pair, because that's what's caused this to go up like that. But now I can try and go back and say, well, did I feel there were things that were a little bit different about it that I've never noticed before? It's really, really interesting. Really, really interesting. And I guess if you make sure to do your fundamentals and your technical analysis, and then bring in what you're saying about your spider senses, for want of a better word, like that seems like a really awesome trifecta, right? And I'm glad that I'm glad that I'm having this adversity now. Not really adversity, but just this to bring up so many emotions and ego. And it's like, the day of the show, and I've got this big red screen. It doesn't matter. It's all bullcrap. So it's just pulling all of this stuff in together is what fascinates me. And my brain is just like, how can I do it the way that you're talking about now?
Yeah. I mean, the thing that you need to ask yourself as well, and there's sometimes like it's something that we do a lot of, is when it goes wrong, it's like we immediately think about, okay, well, that's the fundamental reason why it's gone wrong, and that's fine, and it could be that's correct. But I guess, and I don't know the answer to this, by the way, but what would be interesting for me to know is all of your profitable trades up to now, whether there was any fundamental news that helped any of your trades. Maybe not. It could be the case, but we tend to find reasons why something's happened. Now, in this case, it could be a fact that that's why it's happened, and maybe it's something you need to take into account. And maybe you need to adjust whether you want to hold. I think more importantly, it's like, do you want to hold positions overnight? How does it make you feel when you wake up to that red? Does it impact your future trades? Because if it does, I mean, I don't like waking up to that. So I don't do it. I don't allow it to happen. Not because I win on every trade, but because I generally manage my trade so that I don't wake up to that.
Yeah.
So that suits how I want to trade. And I think how you feel is really important. Like how you start your day is really important as well. So I like to wake up and set my day up, meditate and set myself up for a great day. And ideally go to the gym, but at the moment that's not possible. So I go for a run. But if I wake up and I've got positions and exposure, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my trades. And if they're in the red, that's going to start me off like that. So I don't like it and I don't do it anymore. So it's something you want to think about and if you're happy with it, not happy with it, but okay with it, then it's absolutely fine. But use it as a lesson to say, okay, well, what do I need to do? Do I need to amend my plan, or is my plan fine? Can I take trades even with fundamental news?
Well, this is the first one where I've had a big hit, and the other ones they've closed out for like just in blue. So it's interesting. It's really interesting, and it's all part of my journey. And I don't, good or bad, it doesn't really matter to me now. I've got to take my emotions out of it and just look at what I could have influenced. I haven't been stopped out yet, so I think who knows whether it turns around or not. For me, it's actually a really great tool to do, to go back into personal development and see what came up for me, what emotions came up. I meditated on it. I had to release it. I had to let go of it. And it's just a process of getting closer into myself. I don't know if that's some sort of perverse logic, but for me, it was like, yeah, it was rubbish, but actually it was a really great tool learning for trading, but also for learning stuff that needed to come up in me and be released. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. I think as long as you're comfortable with dealing with it, and you want to trade that way, then that's why we have to have unique plans. And actually, the funny thing is as you evolve, your plan changes, and as your circumstances change, your plan changes. So I think, all of those things really, really matter. And like how you there are saying that you've got this ability and this knowledge of being able to release from that, most people couldn't. So it may not suit them to trade that way. So you have to build the plan to win, like for yourself. That's it. That's what it's about. And that's why, when sometimes people ask me about specific trades, is it a good trade? Is it a bad trade? Yes, there can be good and bad trades in terms of probabilities, but really it's about following your own edge that suits who you are in your current form. And as long as you're comfortable with what you're doing and you understand it, that's it. You're golden. You don't need to worry about what anyone else is doing.
Yeah.
And that includes me, and whoever your mentor is. No, seriously, you shouldn't copy other people's trades. You need to trade your system.
For sure. And I'm trying to do that with everything that I'm doing, whether I'm learning something, I do some dancing with the missus, and even that I'm starting to put my own way and my own moves in certain things, and it's so much more fun. And I'm starting to see things like that with trading as well, but you don't want to deviate too much on the plan. I've just had a thing flash up now. Dow soars above 31,000 as stocks finish at record high. Yeah. Wow. What's going on in the world? I mean, yeah, mental. Hey ho. But look, guys, loving the comments that are coming in, and we want to be real on this. Sab, thank you for sharing that. He did it. He did an overnight once and got gapped overnight, waking up to a 6% loss. Wow, that must have been an interesting process for you. Thanks for sharing that. Frosty, worst thing to wake up to red, sets you off wrong for the day. Yeah, and I can definitely empathize with that. Tony saying that again, I agree with what Andy is saying about night trading. Yeah, sometimes your boat will fill with water. It might not sink. Just because it's in the red doesn't mean it will close in the red. 100% to that. I mean, I'm literally the closest I've ever been to being stopped out since I've come back to trading, which is interesting, which is why I use that rope-a-dope analogy. But yeah, interesting. And it's so true, because it's like, well, if you react to it, it may not happen. So we're being forced to go into the future, which is what causes that anxiety for people if they understand psychology. But at the same time, you can use it. It's a massive gift to release stuff that needs to come out, whether it's attachment, whether it's ego, whether it's I'm believing my own hype. You know, at the end of the day, I could have done more to have protected myself if I'd have just made sure I have a bit more of a routine on the fundamental side instead of just getting caught up in the technicals. Because like you've said, I love it. I lose time going into this, and I'm loving seeing how things work and seeing how just like you said to me, just stare at the candlesticks. I've been doing that, and I feel I can lose hours just doing that, mate. I don't know what, I love it, mate. It's just like, wow.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I've given you the bug.
Mate, I don't know what you've done to me, but yeah, maybe how you've made me start calling you boo-boo. You've done some sort of NLP on me. I'm not sure about that.
We need to end that, mate, as soon as possible.
Okay, so as much as I could keep talking about this stuff, I think it's time to get a picture of a hunky man up. Wait, that came out wrong, but it was
a lot of things that you're saying that are coming out wrong, mate.
Credit where credit's due, mate. The cover of Men's Health edition of Pips Like a Pro, trade setup of the week with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Andy Demi. Do you want to take it away, mate?
I will. Like, do you know, I was going to look at a couple of currencies. There's quite a few good setups, to be fair. But one of our students, Katerina, she asked me to look at Swiss yen, make me uncomfortable. So I did. And I thought, well, if there's a good setup, it's not one that I normally trade, I will bring it up. And actually,
wait, you're willing to risk your streak?
100% record.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
Yeah, I'm willing to risk it. Yeah, we need to spice things up. So we can. So the trade setup of the week is in the Swiss yen. So we may as well make things challenging. That's the whole point of growth, right? So to be transparent, Swiss yen, I don't even know if I've taken a trade in the Swiss yen in the last 2 years. I can't remember the last time I may have taken one, but I've got to say, and it would be nice to hear from anybody who's analyzed it, or anybody who trades it, to get their opinion as well. But a chart is a chart. And so here's what I've done. I have taken some, I've drawn some support and resistance lines. And you can see that the market, if I just bring in my pen, guys. And by the way, I wouldn't have brought this up if I didn't think it was a good setup. I think there's a really good setup here. So I looked at it and I thought, well, if there's no setup, obviously I'm not going to analyze this one. But I do think there is a good setup. So you can see that this is a really nice reactive support area. And then what's really great is that it's also acted as resistance there, resistance there. And I've also got, now if I move this, it's going to mess up my lines, but I've also got this resistance line coming down, which has now acted as support. So you can see here, I'm not going to go back any further, but resistance, broken through, and now acting as support. And you've got this potential area here of resistance, which is interesting. Okay, hopefully everybody's with me so far. So the next thing that I want to do is I want to bring in my weekly levels using our automated tool. So I'll drag it in, click OK. Now, I'm just going to get rid of these lines for a sec. For me, this is really, really interesting because you've got, clearly this market is ranging and it is reacting really, I mean, that's why you've got these lines here it's reacting really, really well here. And you can see that this market was trending down before, but right now it's pretty much stuck in this block. Now, what's quite interesting here, and now this market there's quite a few different scenarios that I've come up with. But one of those scenarios is this market going to look like it's going to break up? So for the naked eye, they're going to look at this resistance point and think, oh, hold on a minute, it's breaking up, and then potentially reverse. That's kind of one conclusion that I came up with. And if you kind of like have a look to see where that is, that comes in at a nice round number, guys, which is 119. So I would mark that down, 119. Now, that's really one of the setups that I'm looking at, and I'll explain exactly the setup in a second. The other thing could be that we could go back into this line and then create another opportunity going down, but that will be a different trade, and that we can't really plan for right now. So if this market pushes up, this is going to be a really, really great zone potentially. So let me just go on and show you how I then built the picture up to make a lot of sense. So daily chart Swiss yen. So here's what I did. If I just take the template, start from the beginning, zoom out, I basically decided to have a look to see where the Fibonacci swings complete. So plugged it in and have a look at that, guys. The Fibonacci swing completes at 118.94, which is pretty much 119. Now we have real confluence. So we have a weekly chart that is right in that corner of channel resistance, that kind of little fake break, and this resistance line here as well, which is basically a projection of here. And we have a daily fib pointing down. For me, that's enough to say that there's a very high probability that this market could basically top here. And it's also kind of like a fake out of this little zone. You can see in the past, the market loves to reject in this zone here. So this really is a really ideal sell zone. Now, here's the thing that's quite interesting, because right now, when you look at the 4-hour chart, the next fib completes here. So essentially, what this basically tells me is there's a couple of things. One is the fib could complete there, do another swing, and then eventually maybe the last swing could be up here, or we could get an overextension. Now, what's really, really cool here, guys, is we have this 200 overextension, and look where that comes in, 119.20. That's not a million miles away. Now, one of the things that I like to do is, and again, this is going a little bit more advanced, but I would kind of like use this projection, and I would use this area here. And you can see, look, the 127 and the 144, you could get this scenario. And Gavin, I know you would understand this. We could get a fade zone break, a fade trade right there with a shallow pullback. And so anywhere up here will be an ideal sell zone. And if you can match it, guys, with the daily trading range, put your mortgage on it. Just joking, by the way. No, but it makes the probability much, much higher. Don't put your mortgage on it. That was just a joke. Everything should always be risk managed, guys. Doesn't matter how good the trade is. But for me, this looks like a really, really solid setup. And that would interest me. If we can get this scenario as well, that's great. But certainly on the weekly and the daily time frame alone, this looks like a really great selling opportunity in the Swiss yen. And you can, and again, you need to follow your plan of where you can target. You could do a short-term trade back down to a last swing, or you could, obviously, you can see, if you wanted to do something more long-term, you can see the last time we were up here, we got that move there, we got that move there, and in this case, we got that move there. So, if you're selling here, you can make the choice of how far down you go. Personally, I like shorter term trades, and then I like to get back in. So that's essentially the trade setup of the week. Does it make sense?
Boom.
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 Drop that mic, bad boy. Drop that mic.
Katerina, since you requested it, boo-boo, Scott.
Yeah, call me the Yogi Bear.
Steve, like Frosty's looking hard, like a hard nut.
Yeah, so let's keep it professional right now rather than I shouldn't have brought that one up. What a great setup, guys. I'm sure, we got a round of applause coming in from Joanna. Thank you, Joanna. Katerina, amazing. Sab loves it. Boom. Lorian, good to have you with us, buddy. Love watching you analyze. Awesome. I think we're actually looking at doing some sort of mentorship Mondays, right? Where people can, I shouldn't really be saying this, but there we go. If you want us to do that, brand new guys as well. So not just students, because everybody gets access to Andy anyway, but even just in the group, in the FX Traders Club, would it help if we started saying you could send in your trade setups and Andy will break it down? Maybe we just spend like 15, 30 minutes on a Monday or something, and we break down your trades and then share it with the group. If you think that would be of value, especially for brand new people that are not affiliated to us in any way. Maybe, you just, you love the group, you're not sure what to do with your trades, but you want to have a go, start sending some stuff in, and maybe we can look at giving that as an extra feature for you, because we're trying to look at ways that we can do more things. But that was absolute gold, my friend. Thank you very much for your professional analysis on that.
Great to be back, guys. I've really missed you all. I missed you as well, Gavin. But I don't want to say too many sentimental things to you, because who knows where we go from boo-boo.
Lucky there's a big ocean in between us, eh?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Lucky
let's keep it that way.
There's a big ocean in between us. Awesome. Well, look, guys, I think we're gonna put that one in the can. If you're watching this on the reruns, please comment. We love adding more juice into the algorithm. And thank you very much for tuning in live. Hope you've got lots of value out of that. Awesome. I'm just trying to get rid of that comment from Lorian. Where is it? There we go. It's way up there. Cool. Okay. Awesome. So on that note, thank you very much for watching. We are out.
You're not going to get me again, Gavin.
I'm going to time it. You don't know when it's coming. You don't know what week I'm going to do it. But I'm going to get you, buddy. I'm going to get you.
Oh, take care, everybody.